First story. Dad, who gave me alcohol as a child, abandoned me for his drug addict, abusive girlfriend. Now, 16 years later, he wants to come back and be a grandpa for my child after his girlfriend died of overdose. And his new girlfriend kicked him out of her house. This is really long. And I would really appreciate it if you read it and gave me some input, words of encouragement, anything. This is so hard. Some backstory here. My mom was 19 when she had me, father 24. He was in my life for the first 3 years, and then they broke up. So I had visitation with him until I was 11 when he left. I would see him Tuesday, Thursday, and every other weekend for 8 years. He was an alcoholic and started doing drugs, and when I was 9, he met this woman we'll call A. A was also an addict, and his addiction just got worse as she moved in. Life over there was never the same, and they just trash-talked my mom, manipulated me, gave me alcohol, left drugs out, etc. It was becoming unsafe over there, and my mom didn't really want me to be there, obviously. It was kind of rocky at that time. My dad turned on my mom more, would give me his child support, and say things like, take this and hide it so that B doesn't use it on herself, etc. Very much manipulative. Anyways, fast forward to the last time I saw him on my 11th birthday. He was passing out on the couch from being so messed up. That's the last image I have of him in my head. Not even a few weeks after that, he and A and her children left the state I live in and moved across the country together. He never told me. Never said bye. Nothing. Just told me over a phone call and also told me he married A. I hated her because I blamed her for my dad's actions, but I know he made those choices. She died from an overdose a long time ago. Basically, he completely abandoned me. The phone calls got fewer, every promise broken, false hope. I was miserable, depressed, sad, and lonely as a new teenager starting in a new school, by the way. It was the worst time in my life. It was horrible what he did to me. Forever I kept the door open. Told him the ball was in his court and whatnot. But I think it's finally time to cut him off for good and close that chapter of my life, so I can heal from my trauma. I have a son now, and I want to do better for him. He has always been so irresponsible, in and out of jail, can't get a real job or a license. He's burned every bridge with every person because he's a puss. I worked really hard to heal these wounds, and he brought every emotion back with one text 2 weeks ago. He decides now is the time to try to come back. But with condition, of course. He texted me at 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, saying this so casually, as if it's not a huge ask and bomb drop. Hey OP, happy belated birthday, Christmas, and New Year. I might move back to where I live and wondered if you want to see me and let me meet my grandson. It's up to you. No rush. It'll be a couple of months before I can get up there, but I got nothing here until my mom dies, and she doesn't want me to live with her, so I don't know where I'm going to go from here. But I'm not going to stay in where he lives now. I was hoping to come back to where I live. But if you're not going to talk to me or see me, I'll probably go to a different state. I talked to my grandma, his mom, who I have always had a relationship with, and she told me what was really going on. His ex-girlfriend kicked him out on Christmas, and he's homeless and can't even afford a $300 move-in fee to rent a room. Basically a loser who never bettered his life or changed. I told him I needed time to process this. Even his text is so manipulative. But I finally made the decision, I think. I'm just so effing nervous to send the text I have written out. I have never taken this step before, and it's so hard. Why is it so hard? Ugh. I felt good writing this message out, but hitting send is difficult. Here's what I wrote. I worked so hard to move past the hurt and pain you caused me in my life. Then you went and F-ed it all up with one text. One text saying you would come back here and want to see me and be in my life. There were conditions, of course. Because your love has always been conditional. And for a moment that lost little girl came out and had hope that this was real. That I would still have the chance to have a father-daughter relationship with you in this lifetime. That you finally realized how bad you F-ed up. But then, I remembered who you are. I remembered the false hope for 16 years. I remembered the pain I felt when you left me without even telling me. I remembered how you left me behind like I was nothing to you. I remembered that you cannot grow up and get your effing SHT together. I remembered going through every milestone in my life without you. I remembered how you don't even bother to call me on my birthday. I remembered the amount of times I screamed and cried and wondered why. Why was I so easily disposable? Why doesn't the hurt ever go away? Why doesn't my own father want anything to do with me? I realized that it would not be any different if you were here. I know now that you have no place in my life. I have never needed you. I did everything on my own with my mom by my side. You don't get to take any of the credit for everything I did without you. You absolutely do not get to come back into my life out of the blue, 16 years later, as if nothing happened. We don't even know each other. We are just strangers who share DNA. It's not my responsibility for us to have a relationship, and it never was. And as a parent, I could never do what you did. I couldn't even begin to wrap my head around abandoning my child willingly. That little boy is my whole world, and you do not get the privilege of being called grandpa. You were never even a father. My decision is that I no longer want to speak to you at all. Unless you can prove to me that you have your tht together. That I actually matter in your life. As much as it hurts closing that door, I know it's what's best for me and my family. When you come back around, only when it's convenient for you, it just causes more pain. I'm taking my power back, and I refuse to let this control me any longer. I want to be a better person for my son, and I will forever protect him from the trauma you put me through. I feel like I'm ready, but there's something holding me back. I'm not sure. I wish it was easy to do. It's not like he talked to me much in the first place anyways, but it feels so final, like mourning someone who's still alive. TLDR. Dad abandoned me at 11 and never came back or talked to me really. Now he wants to come back, be in my son's life, and see me. But he's still an irresponsible posse, and I think I'm finally ready to go NC with him. Although I'm really struggling to press send. Edit. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate every single one of you who took the time to read a little bit about my story and my life. Your words mean more than you know. I know we're all just people on the internet, but the validation and support mean the world to me. It's hard to talk to people I know about this. I feel like it's been a part of my life for so long it's hard for people to understand. My dad was my best friend before he left me to pick up the pieces. I will be taking all this advice into consideration and sending him a more shortened version of my text. I will update you guys if anything else happens. Again, thank you so much. I have been in tears all night mourning, just so grateful there are people out there who understand what I'm going through and can see it for what it really is. Second story. I believe my friend's boyfriend tried to sell me, so I called him out, complained at school, and his parents almost ruined his life. Now the truth has come out, and I did apologize. Still, my friends cut me off, and the whole school is bullying me. I don't even know how to begin because this is, hands down, the worst thing I've ever done. It's been 3 weeks since everything went down, and I feel like I've been living in a nightmare ever since. I'm not looking for sympathy here, I know I screwed up. I just don't know how to move forward. It all started on an ordinary school day. I was standing in the hallway between classes with a group of my friends, laughing and chatting about something random, when it happened. Out of nowhere, I felt what I thought was a hand on my butt. It wasn't subtle. It felt like a deliberate squeeze, and I froze. My heart was racing, and I felt this immediate surge of panic and anger. I turned around instantly, and the first person I saw was Alex, standing right behind me. For some context, Alex is my best friend Sarah's boyfriend. He's always been kind of quiet and awkward, not the kind of guy I'd ever expect to pull something like that. But at that moment, I was convinced it was him. I thought, who else could it be? He's the only one close enough. Without even thinking, I exploded. I called him out right there in the middle of the hallway. I can't remember my exact words, but it was something like, "What the hell is wrong with you? You think you can just grab me like that?" My voice was loud enough that everyone around us turned to look. People were staring, whispering. Alex looked completely shocked. He kept saying, "I didn't do anything," over and over, but I wasn't listening. I was so sure it was him. I could feel the heat rising in my face as I yelled at him. And then Sarah jumped in, looking completely horrified. She asked him if it was true, and he just kept denying it. She turned to me, clearly torn, and asked if I was sure. And I said yes. I told her I was 100% sure it was him. At that point, I was shaking. I felt humiliated, violated, and furious all at the same time. I told my friends I was going to the principal to report him, and I did. I didn't want to let him get away with it. In my head, I was doing the right thing, standing up for myself, setting an example that this kind of behavior wouldn't be tolerated. The principal took it seriously, as they should have, and Alex was called in. Sarah came with him, and eventually, both of our parents were called too. It was a huge ordeal. I told the principal what happened, and Alex kept denying it, saying he didn't touch me. My parents looked uncomfortable but supportive of me, while his parents looked furious and confused. Alex just sat there, shaking his head, insisting over and over that it wasn't him. The principal decided to check the CCTV footage from the hallway to figure out what really happened. I remember sitting there, arms crossed, fully expecting to be vindicated. I thought the footage would show Alex doing exactly what I said he did, and then everyone would see I was right. But that's not what happened. The footage showed me standing with my friends, laughing and talking. Then it showed me suddenly stepping back into Alex, who had been walking behind me. His bag, which was slung over his shoulder, bumped into me. That's all it was, his bag brushing against me because I moved back too quickly. He hadn't even been looking at me. He was staring at his phone the entire time. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. My stomach dropped, and I could barely look at anyone in the room. My parents just stared at me, their faces a mix of disappointment and embarrassment. Alex's mom shook her head and muttered something under her breath, and Alex just looked completely drained. He didn't even say anything. He just sat there with his head in his hands. The principal dismissed everyone after that, and I tried to apologize to Alex right away. I told him I was sorry, that I'd made a mistake. But he just looked at me like I was the worst person alive and walked out without saying a word. I don't blame him. I deserved it. When I got home that day, my parents sat me down and told me how disappointed they were. They weren't cruel about it, but they didn't sugarcoat anything either. They said I had made a huge mistake and needed to take responsibility for it. They said I needed to learn from this, that this was a serious lesson about how my actions can impact others. I knew they were right, but it didn't make it any easier to hear. The fallout at school was even worse. Sarah cut me off immediately. She didn't even wait until the next day. She sent me a long text that night, saying she couldn't believe I would accuse Alex of something so serious without knowing the full story. She said I humiliated him and destroyed her trust in me, and that she didn't want anything to do with me anymore. Then she blocked me. My other friends weren't much better. They didn't confront me directly, but they started avoiding me like the plague. They stopped inviting me to sit with them at lunch or join in on group chats. I'd hear them whispering to each other when I walked into the room, and sometimes they'd make snide comments loud enough for me to hear, like, "She just loves being the center of attention," or "Maybe she should think before she accuses someone next time." I've become the school pariah. Even though the truth came out, people still gossip about me. I hear the whispers in the hallway, the cruel jokes people make when they think I can't hear. Some people even feel bad for Alex, which they should, but their sympathy for him has turned into outright hatred for me. I deserve some of it, but it's relentless. The worst part is knowing that I ruined Alex's life, even if it was unintentional. Even though the footage cleared him, the damage was already done. There are still kids who side-eye him in the hallway or make jokes about the butt grab incident. He doesn't deserve that. He's a good guy who got caught up in my mistake, and now he's paying for it. I've tried apologizing to him twice since then, but he won't even acknowledge me. I haven't tried reaching out to Sarah again because I know it's pointless. She's made it very clear that our friendship is over. My parents keep telling me to hold my head up and show people I've grown, but I feel like there's no coming back from this. I've lost everyone who mattered to me, and I have no idea how to fix it. TLDR. I accused my best friend's boyfriend of groping me after his bag brushed against me in the hallway. I reported him to the principal, but CCTV footage proved he didn't touch me. Now I've lost my best friend, my friend group, and my reputation, and I don't know how to move forward. Comments. In response to a deleted comment. OP. I've been sitting with that question a lot over the past few weeks, and honestly, I think it did play a role. I've never told anyone this, but when I was 14, an older guy at a party slapped my arse as I was walking by. I didn't know him, and I didn't say anything because I was too scared, but it stuck with me. I think that experience made me hypersensitive to the idea of someone touching me without consent. So when I felt that touch in the hallway, it was like all that fear and anger came rushing back. I didn't think, I just reacted. But that doesn't excuse what I did to Alex. If anything, it makes me feel worse because I let my past cloud my judgment and hurt someone innocent. Comment 2. I'm sorry to say this, but your friends cutting you off seems justified. You didn't just make a mistake, you destroyed someone's reputation, and now they're suffering because of it. I know you've apologized, but do you really understand the weight of what you did? OP. I understand completely. Trust me, I've been replaying everything in my head nonstop, and I hate myself for it. I ruined Alex's reputation and hurt Sarah, who was one of my closest friends. I don't blame them for cutting me off or hating me. I know my apology doesn't erase the damage I caused. I just wish I could fix it somehow. But I know there's nothing I can do to undo what I've done. I don't expect forgiveness, I just want to find a way to move forward without making things worse. Third story. My entitled parents installed hidden cameras in my house, then confessed, saying it's to ensure I don't have sex with my fiancé, and calling him a SLT. Recently, my parents visited my condo. For the past few months, since I've bought it, they've visited me regularly just to talk. And so I thought it was just another visit. And it was until I saw something plugged in my living room. My fiancé and I'm 25F. He's 22M, clean our place once a week. So I didn't see it until now. And it was a nanny cam. I unplugged it, and I called my parents about it. And they said they didn't know anything about it. I believed them at first. But when my fiancé told me that they were the only people that had been in our place in the past week, I asked them again, and then they confessed. Their reasoning was honestly appalling, and to put it simply, they wanted to make sure I wasn't having sex. We got in a really big argument, and I told them to not visit me for a while. But they told me they'd do it anyway, and that we'd have a talk in person about me not being compliant. I'm a grown arse effing woman. There is no valid reason for them to break my trust and put a secret camera in my house. I honestly don't feel comfortable seeing my parents for a long time. They were already pushing their boundaries, in my opinion, with a lot of the comments they say about my fiancé. They've said on numerous occasions he was a SLT, which is effing gross. The only person that's convinced me to still let them see me these past few months is literally my fiancé. And yet they still disrespect both him and his culture regularly. As far as I'm concerned, if he's not open to seeing them, I have no reason to see them for some time either. Relevant comments. Duckyglow. Change the locks if they have the keys, or simply don't open the doors. Say you're out. That's absurd. And in my country, it would be a crime. OP. I'm already planning to do that even if they don't have keys. I live in the US, and I'm pretty sure it's a crime here too, unless you're talking about the US. Environment_591. And do a more thorough search of the home in case there wasn't only the one camera, since they could have admitted to one, hoping you would stop looking after they confessed. OP. That was the only one. We checked every outlet because the camera they use needs to be plugged in. Memory boy. If they did something as messed up as this to you as an adult, I dread to think what they did to you as a kid. It took me till I was 45 to realize stuff like this is abuse. OP. No locks on doors, strict curfews, just normal controlling parent things. It honestly became this controlling when I started dating my fiancé. They were weird about him on day one. Cow_launcher. Yep, they still disrespect both him and his culture regularly. I won't make any assumptions about which cultures are involved here, but I suspect that the above is a very large clue as to what's actually going through their heads and what the underlying problem really is. OP. I'm white and Christian, and my fiancé is Asian and practices Taoism. Update. 4 months later. Hi. So it's been a while since I made my first post. I didn't want to make an update on this. However, a lot of really f'ed up SHT has happened recently that's been stressing me out as of late. To start from the beginning, my parents put a camera in my 25F and my fiancé's 22M condo without us knowing. They visited our condo frequently up until that point, so we didn't expect anything until we actually saw it a week later, when we confronted them about it. Their reasoning was to basically make sure we weren't having sex. And after it all happened, I didn't feel comfortable at all seeing or talking to them again, or maybe going no contact, especially considering all of the weird SHT they'd said about my fiancé prior to this. However, my fiancé convinced me to do otherwise, so we talked to my parents about it all. They apologized, which the both of us thought sounded really fake, so we decided to set some boundaries with them. The most notable ones were that they weren't allowed in our condo for the next year, we changed the passcode for our smart lock, etc., and that they could only meet us in public spaces. We also asked my parents to admit they put a camera in our house if we ever wanted to take legal action against them. At the time, we didn't plan to ever do that, and for the past few months since the incident, we haven't seen my parents all that much. Then around Thanksgiving, my fiancé saw my parents. I was at work at the time, but my fiancé was taking his cousin 15M to a fundraising event for his youth church group. My fiancé isn't really all that religious, but he does identify as a Taoist. On the other hand, his cousin is Christian, like my family. I'm pretty sure he's Catholic, while my parents are Protestant, so there is a disconnect there. But regardless, they're both still Christian. My fiancé is close to his cousin, and even though I don't really talk to him besides when I watch his volleyball games, he's a nice kid. So when my fiancé called me to tell me that he was going to spend the day with him, I thought that was fine. But then I got a call from my fiancé telling me that he saw my parents at the event. When he said that, I just told him to ignore them. To be honest, I don't think I reacted with enough urgency. I should have told him to literally stay the F away from them. Like, don't talk with them at all. Because for some reason he decided to bring his cousin to go talk to them. I love my fiancé, so please don't take this the wrong way. But when he told me he willingly brought himself over to see them, I wanted to call him stupid so bad. I don't want to get mad at him. But when he tried to explain his reasoning to me, it was all just, I don't know, so effing stupid. He said when he said hi to my parents, they asked him what he was doing here, and then he introduced his cousin. He said that they were actually really respectful to his cousin, it's a kid. So they should be, but I digress, and they talked for a while. His cousin told my fiancé that he needed to go now, so my fiancé tried to say bye. And when he did, he said my dad grabbed his arm. He said they let go right away, but my fiancé asked him what he was doing. They proceeded to get in an argument, and my fiancé started to film them. He got it on video. Literally, as soon as he started filming, they began pushing away my fiancé and his cousin. Literally a effing kid. They were pushing and hurting a kid for no effing reason. After that, my fiancé brought his cousin with him back home, so his cousin's event was ruined for him. For the past few weeks now, my fiancé and I have been considering getting a restraining order against my parents, at the very least my dad. Amazingly, my fiancé is still somewhat hesitant about going all the way through with it. But once he considers his cousin, and the fact that he was affected by my parents too, he wants to get it. It's actually so effing crazy the tht my parents have done to try and control my and my fiancé's life. Them putting the camera in our house was just the thing that really opened my eyes to everything. After this, I don't ever want to talk to them. My parents have been ignoring all of our calls, but I really wonder what reason they had to basically involve my fiancé's cousin too. Just unbelievable all around, really. Relevant comments. Ceramic Savage. Your fiancé needs to take your lead when it comes to your parents. He needs to be on your side. You can't half-arse and see. OP. He has been taking my lead on this, especially after his confrontation with my parents. Before, I'd say he was still trying to maintain a semblance of a relationship between us and my parents. However, now he's just worried about me now, which I really appreciate. Kip_stump. I think sometimes people who don't have abusive, controlling parents don't really understand the seriousness of it. Hopefully your fiancé will listen to you about this now. OP. I think the thing with him is that he has had abusive parents. The reason he's always tried so hard to keep the relationship between me and my parents alive is because his parents were abusive to him, and yet he still has a relationship with them. Especially after what just happened, that mindset I think is gone from him, but it just never really made any sense to me. Environmental_art 591, OP. You have been allowing your fiancé to dictate your relationship with your parents. You wanted to cut them off, but he said no. He sought them out, meaning he could have avoided the drama by not going near them as you had agreed prior. So once again, he ignored your wishes. He is only agreeing to cut them out. Look at legal options. Because his cousin was affected by his choices. Now you have your friends telling you to take your time, which means that there is more time for your fiancé to ignore you yet again and go against your wishes regarding contact with your family. You need to stand up for yourself and make decisions for yourself and evaluate the rest of the people you have around you, because news flash, it's not only your parents who disregard your boundaries. OP. I completely understand what you're saying, and I've talked about him listening to me on all of this. But throughout this whole situation, I've been the one making all of the decisions. I've thought about my fiancé and his opinion. Of course I wasn't. I was the one who decided to not cut contact when they initially put a camera in our house, and I'm the one really pushing for a restraining order now. He's not arguing with me to not push back parents' artists. It's not who he really is. And yes, I know he could have avoided this whole entire situation if he just avoided my parents. I've expressed my frustration with him, because believe me, it's effing bugging me still that he did that. But like I said, it's who he is as a person. He's a people pleaser. He always tries to make everybody happy. I love him for that, but it's probably really clear now that it's hurting us. The fact that it hurt his cousin as well, who he's told me is like his brother to him, just made it worse for him. Again, I agree that I should stand up for myself and make the decisions that benefit me, and I've been doing that. My fiancé hasn't been trying to override my decisions with his. He's just trying to make everybody happy. It's how he's always been, and especially with him still in university for his degree. It's been really stressful for him as well. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.